Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. It's Champions League week. Champions League week it is. Back alongside me, before we bring in our ultra special guest, one man who's booked himself away for some of the Champions League games. It looks like he's already looking on flights right now at where he can go and how he can get there. Jason McGovern's back alongside me. Jace, how are you, mate? Lovely you back alongside me.
Not too bad, mate. Nice to have a win at the weekend, and looking forward to tonight. Yeah,
absolutely.
Looking forward to tonight with Russell Martin.
Here we go. We just started. Listen, we'll be coming on to the main takeaways, of course, that West Ham game. We gave you, of course, our post-match analysis to that. And I don't mean to actually say this, and Bridgie, forgive me, you might have to cover your ears for this. There's very few journalists that Jason tolerates out there, but he makes a special exception for the one, the only, the superb, brilliant, one of our own broadcaster, presenter, journalist, Michael Bridges back. Bridgie, let me show you here, mate. How are you? Welcome back to Last Word on Spurs.
Hello, both. It's good to see you both. Always good.
We have got Michael Bridge from Sky Sports. We are just working on Bridge's Wi-Fi there. It will come back into focus. Bridge, have we got you? Have we got you?
Yeah, you got me? Got me?
We've got you now. We've got you. We've got you loud and clear. We have. You
Yeah.
broke up there slightly, but mate, let me tell you back. How are you first? Are you well?
Yeah, great, boys. Yeah, really well. Thank you. How are you?
All good, mate. All good. Lovely to have you back on the show with us here. As I say, we build up to Spurs being back in the Champions League. And it's ironic. It's weird to see you, Mike, when you're not at Hotspur Way, trying to bring us a deadline day signing. I say it's been crazy last few months at Spurs, right? Have you managed to get your head around the last few months in general?
I feel this transfer window in particular. I was really tired after it because there was an extra window after in June, the extra one for the Club World Cup. But then it was such a busy window for everyone. But my prime focus was covering Spurs. Of course, the high-profile deals that happened and the ones that didn't happen, with Gibbs White and Eze, we don't want to go into those ones again. That's done. That's the past. That's history. What we do know, we ended up getting Xavi Simons and a very, very strong debut, a good start. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the business Spurs have done. Let's wait and see. Let's crack on now. It's going to be a busy few months, that's for sure.
It is indeed. And obviously, bridging the process of obviously in the last few months, how busy it's been. There's been obviously a significant change in terms of the ballroom for Spurs. Daniel Levy, of course, exiting the footballing side of the operation. So we come on to that and more with you in terms of how you see that impacts the club. And a number of the, obviously, you'd say constituents or those that are now looking after the football club, well, they have been around really over the last, like we've said, 25 years or so. Viv Lewis in attendance, Nick Boysher in attendance, Vinay Venkatesham in attendance as well. Of course, before Spurs' game against West Ham United, where, Jace, to start with you, Spurs' first win at the London Stadium since November 2019. You have to go back to Mourinho's first game as Spurs head coach, but it's Tottenham's best ever result at the London Stadium and our biggest away win at West Ham since 1962. Important, Jace, to kind of remove Bournemouth from our mind and get back to winning ways by the magnitude of it all?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think particularly with all the distractions off the pitch, it was good to get back to be able to concentrate on the pitch. A really impressive win. First 20 minutes or whatever, you're not going to go to West Ham and not come under any pressure. So, but, I don't really remember Vic having too much to do. Maybe that one chance for Paqueta that he dragged wide. But, I thought from 20 minutes onwards, we looked the only winner. Bit bizarre why we weren't 1-0 up. And then if 1-0 was a foul, then even more bizarre that we then didn't get a penalty straight after it. But either way round, fortunately it didn't cost us. And in a strange way, the kind of game just kind of petered out, didn't it? 3-0. We were just was similar to the game at home last year, where we had a quick blast after half time. They had a man sent off, and the game just kind of petered out. Not like a normal Spurs West Ham game, but no, impressive win. One or two of the subs, maybe you might have. I felt a little bit. I'm thinking, why is Kolo Muani on the bench if we're 3-0 up against 10 men with 20 minutes to go? He's not come on, and yet Archie Gray's not in the squad. So but I mean that's an observation, not in any way a criticism of it. No, just a really comfortable win and good. I didn't realise it was our best since the 60s.
Yeah.
So really impressive win where we don't often go and get the result. So full credit to everyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, Bridgie, coming over to you. We've had a number of draws up there the last few years, and we found it really hard to actually go up there and win. To win like that will give everybody confidence. But just on Frank, we'll have a chance to speak to you about Thomas Frank. 3 wins from the first 4 games, in terms of Premier League, that is. 3 clean sheets from 4, 8 goals scored. First at London Stadium in 6 years. What have you made of Thomas Frank's start to life at Spurs? I feel like you've been in and around him for a lot of his time so far at Spurs. It's great to ask you about the man that you've interviewed quite a lot in this last, couple of months since becoming the Spurs head coach.
Yeah, firstly, apologies to everyone watching. I'm drinking out of a Winnie the Pooh cup, I've just realised. So, apologies. Yeah, look, do you know what? I've had the pleasure of interviewing Thomas as Brentford manager for the past 7-8 years. I've always enjoyed going to Brentford. He's a very engaging guy. He never got flustered about the likes of myself and others going to ask him about Ivan Toney every day. You can tell how much he's loving it. You can really tell he walks in at every press conference with a huge smile on his face. And I just wondered, because as much as I like and respect Brentford, they're 2 completely different football clubs. So I'm really intrigued to see how he gets on. You can tell he's loving it already. He's got a real bond with the players, huge bond with the coaching staff, and even Matt Wells, who was there before him. So, and you saw that yesterday when Spurs scored, they were pointing to the bench in terms of the set pieces. But what I like about him as well is his attention to detail. I think he knows that mistakes were made in terms of the selection, lineup, and general play against Bournemouth. And he sort of said, this will never happen again. I like that. There's no problem in learning. There's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be downs this season as well, that's for sure. But what I like about him as well, now, you ask any Chelsea fan or West Ham fan, 99% of them are going to say Tottenham's our big derby, right? So obviously all managers who come into the club know Arsenal's the one. There have been managers in the past, and I'll be honest with you, a couple of players have said it to me in the past. One said to me, wow, they don't like us, do they, West Ham? I went, no. So go out there and do 110%. I wasn't in the dressing room, but I mean, it was during. It
should have been really based on that.
It was after an interview. But everyone listening, watching knows what I'm saying. When West Ham beat us 1-0 under Poch, when one of the title seasons, and it can get frustrating because there's so much hate at the club. But so I said to someone at the club Friday when they're for the presser, does Thomas know that this is going to be a tough derby Saturday? And he went, oh yes, don't you worry. He's well aware, and I liked that. Because if I get 3 questions in the press conference, naturally, my questions were on Daniel Levy's departure as chairman, because I start the presser as Sky, so I get 3, and that has to lead the agenda because we haven't spoken to him since. But yeah, so I'm delighted. There are so many positives from yesterday. I like, obviously Jace talking about, the Archie Grays and people and Moani. I'm just glad, and I'm keeping everything crossed that we don't suffer too many injuries, because we are going to get them, because the European schedule is relentless. So we are going to get injuries. Yeah. But if it can't be, it can't be, hopefully not as severe as last season. But if the majority can stay fit, then I'm very hopeful. I really like this. Feels like a new look squad, doesn't it, boys? It does. I think a lot of that is down to Romero. I mean, honestly, yesterday, the guy I sat next to, I said, do you know what? This is exactly why he had to stay at this football club. What a start to the season that guy's had. He even came home early from international duty. What's going on? It's just brilliant. I'm not getting ahead of myself. It's too early, but so far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, people won't forget, Bridgie. I hope you remember me saying this. And look, he's had since he's left the club, he's done very well in his managerial career. And he's pretty unlucky to be out of a job. But I remember sitting with you 3 games in under Nuno, and I don't know if you remember this. You Jason, I think, was on the show, and you were saying to me, Rick, it's very early days. Calm down. It's 3 wins. It's 1-0. It's very early days. I mean, to some degree, this does feel a little bit different. But again, this point when you always urge on a side of caution, right, Bridgie? Because again, it is such early days, and it's Tottenham.
Just Nuno, and I have huge respect for what he did at Forest. Yeah, it just wasn't right. It was the wrong fit. So I didn't feel any excitement. Yeah. But here I can see Thomas. I can see it, you know.
Yeah.
And those clips of him arm round Spence at the end, he's laughing with Van der Ven at the end. Love that. Absolutely love that. And you know, clean sheets. Yes, we love goals, but I love it. Let's get some clean sheets. Let's be hard to defend, you know?
Yeah.
So, as I say, so far, so good. And let's just hope and pray that Romero and especially Mickey don't pick up any bad injuries.
Yeah, agree. They are two players that you have to keep fit for this campaign for sure. Spurs, they do finish the weekend sitting in the top 4. They're third at the moment. They're level on points with Arsenal, Liverpool heading the top of the Premier League at the moment. But like I say, in terms of the start we've had, Frankie's only the third Spurs manager to win his first 2 away top flight matches at the helm of the club, although the others were Ozzy Ardiles and Tim Sherwood. And we hope, obviously, on the basis of their interesting reigns as Tottenham managers, that we hope he does outlast them. But I think the key thing about it is, Jason, you've said this a lot, is that we're entering a period here that is unprecedented for Thomas Frank in terms of having to try and juggle Premier League, Champions League, Cup involvement, so that again he's not been used to in his career. Is this really now, Jace, the toughest test for him in terms of how he does manage that Tuesday to Saturday, Sunday, or the Wednesday to the Saturday, Sunday? Because again, he's not used to it, and there's only one way to obviously become used to it, by doing it. So how big are these next few weeks to really see how Thomas Frank is going to match up and handle this job that's in store for him?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you've got 3 midweeks before the next international break, and we've got a game every single one of them. So we're now, you know, every 4 days, 3 or 4 days, you've got a game. We're Tuesday this week. People were complaining, why aren't we on the Wednesday? But if we were Wednesday this week, you lose the extra day at the other end of the fixture. So, you know, you'd be going to Brighton with 1 less day. So it doesn't really matter whether you're Tuesday or Wednesday. But, I mean, you look at the Premier League games, West Ham, Brighton, Wolves, Leeds, you feel there's a good chance to get 12 points or at least 10 points from those games. And the 3 midweek games in this little batch aren't too bad. Villareal at home, Doncaster at home, Bodo away, because the next batch is when you then really get the big ones, don't you? When you've got Villa, Chelsea, Man United, Monaco and things like that. So it's a good test to just get used to it. I mean, one of the things that Thomas has to get used to, with great respect to Bridgie, is that you know, suddenly you're on a press conference. You'll be doing twice as many press conferences he's ever done. You know, you finish the Wednesday game of a European you do it Thursday morning, and the very next day you're back in there again to do the Premier League one. And you know, if you've come back from Europe and you've landed at, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning Thursday, and you suddenly got to do a press conference at 10 o'clock in the morning Friday, that's when you start thinking, God, I've had this question, the same questions all the time. And that's the kind of issues that Thomas Frank can get new with. So it's also good we've got not too many injuries, but we'll see now how you have to manage the squad. I thought we actually did that well at the weekend. I thought it was a little bit risky. Surprised to see Matisse Tell start instead of Richie on the game. But it was important, I think, for Matisse Tell in a way to get that inclusion after the Champions League snub, if you like. And actually, I might have let Matisse Tell just play the whole 90 minutes yesterday. Again, that's not a criticism, but at 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go, you know, it wasn't like the game was in balance. So I might have just let Matisse Tell have those final 20 minutes and keep Richie fresh. But even yesterday, taking Van der Ven off just before the end, which, you know, we still need to manage some of these players. So overall, it's a big test, but no reason to fear this first little batch, and a really good test for us to get that second bench.
Yeah, I mean, Jace brings up a point there, Bridgie. I'm just intrigued to know from you. You know, you said you've interviewed Thomas Frank during his time at Brentford as well. Have you noticed any big differences in terms of the way he's come across in presses between Brentford to Spurs? Because that's the interesting point about it. He's got double the size of what the journalist would be in the room, which probably sometimes means that it's not against you. This is more the national journalist, that, you know, the same questions do reoccur. Have you seen any real big differences from Frank in terms of Brentford to Tottenham in those press conferences and having one-on-one?
I've not seen a massive difference in his personality or character. He absolutely loves sitting down on the comfy seat at Spurs. I mean, he loves it. But again, I go back to it though. You know, I've got a lot of respect for Brentford, but it took Frank a few weeks to get used to all the rooms, how big the training ground was. It's a big change for him. But you know what? Jason's absolutely right. He is going to have double the pressers, double the scrutiny. And I got to a point last year where I thought Ange might have been sick of seeing me all the same faces every time. So Ange. I mean, some managers do have the opportunity to do their press conferences after a match. So Ange could have, if he wanted to, do a Europa League match, and then they would say, right, they're now taking questions ahead of the Premier League match on Sunday against Wolves or whoever. But Ange didn't want to think about the next game until the next day. So it'd be interesting to see what Thomas does. Every manager's completely different. Different. But look, it's new for Frank. He hasn't got massive European managerial experience.
No.
So this is why, if only like the PSG game was one of those subs a mistake. The odd error against Bournemouth in terms of team selection. He's still learning. So I think he deserves great credit for the start Spurs have actually made. But then there has to be a reality and a reminder that this is still very early days for everyone. It's a very different team. Even I was in the away end last night, and when the players came over and they were applauding the fans, I thought this is a really newish. It looks fresher, And I looking at Bergvall, I'm looking at him like kind of an experienced head, and I'm thinking, Michael, what you on about? He's 19, so it's early days. It's early days, but again, it's all positive. But I've never ever seen Frank get wound up or lose it.
I was about to ask you that. He's a very calm, composed talker, isn't he? I don't in a disrespectful way. I don't think we're going to get Hollywood box office press conferences that sometimes. No. I said to Jason that sometimes, with Ange, you'd kind of wait for the 10:30 embargo, thinking you want to get the popcorn ready for this. And that's no disrespect. That's no disrespect to obviously Frank, but I feel he's just not going to be of that nature where, with all due respect, it's different kinds of people.
I got on with Ange, right?
I know you did, yeah.
My first 3 questions, I'm just the warm-up act. But the thing is, because I only had 3 questions, in an ideal world, I liaise with the other journalists in the room and we say, look, could you do that one? That'd be brilliant. Or, someone will focus more on the game, whereas I focus more on today's news agenda. But I mean, sometimes the questions don't always come out how you want them. And I remember one time I asked a question and it was just so badly worded from myself. I ended up apologising to Ange a few days after and gave me a hug and he went, forget it, we move on.
I feel like you were one of the very few, though, in terms of the journalists that you didn't fall out with. You seem to have a great relationship with Ange.
I'd like to think I'm fair. He knew I was a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that I would never... Yeah. I'd never try and trip someone up deliberately. I would never try and lead him up a garden path. So I once asked a question. Look, I've done it for 17 years. I'm going to, you're always going to do that. I didn't ask a question. I worded it so badly, and I felt I owed him an apology a few days later, and he was brilliant. So, but yeah, in terms, they're all different, the managers as well. Conte, very long, considered answers, and you might get a bit of good humour sometimes, or not when he was in the greatest of moods. But Frank, but what I like with Frank as well, we always start off with, I start off with it, and then the answers, but he starts and he goes, then he answers. Nope. But he's a very nice guy. He's a very, very, very nice guy. And he's, with Brentford, he did a lot for the club off the pitch as well. So, they lost a great ambassador as well, I feel. So, yeah. So far, so good. Oh, isn't it nice to be positive tonight?
I know. It is nice. This is the thing, Jason. I know that we both feel this. This is now a massive test for Frank in terms of how he is going to manage, like we've said, the European schedule and the cup schedule. And like you said there as well, the fact that the matter is that, from press conference to press conference, he's not only got to deal with that, he's got to deal with the injury situation. We will come on to Solanke in a short time. I know that one is the Solanke one's a concerning piece of news about his injury because I know Frank hasn't wanted to put a deadline on it, but seems to suggest that it shouldn't be too far away. Is that the big thing about this season, Jace? The way when you look at the squad, how important it is trying to manage the players, manage the injuries? Because let's be honest about it, as I said to you off air, and I know we both felt the same about this, that injuries have decimated really Spurs' last 2 campaigns. So just how much is going to be key to making sure players are fit and ready for what is to come, because it is going to be, once we get going in this period, it's relentless really until probably the next international break, Jace?
Yeah, of course it's key. You know, when you suffer the number of injuries we do last year, whatever people want to think of the causes or whatever of them, it gives you a huge problem. But the key to managing them is when you've got them, how you then rotate. So if you're down to 2 centre backs and you've got the game against Monaco on the Thursday night, and then you've got Man United on the Sunday, and then you've got Arsenal straight on top of it. It's how you get that period, how you get through that period, that's the problem. But at the moment, squad's nice and fit and healthy, and you feel like, I mean, the Doncaster game you can definitely rotate, can't you? Particularly with it being at home, you'd be astonished if you can almost look down who hasn't started games, and that's pretty much going to be your team, and you'd hope that Archie Grays and things will be involved with that. And even, like I say, even with Bodo Glimt, it's somewhere where we went last year, but it's not going to Juve away or something like that. It's the week where you've got PSGs and things like that. But at the moment, all's well and good. But I mean, even as Bridgie says, the squad feels a little bit new, because even the long-term injuries that we've got, you actually don't feel they're now part of the squad, do you? Which is horrible to say, and I'm sure Thomas Frank would prefer them to be, but you've kind of forgotten about Madders now, and you've kind of forgotten about Decky. So that also adds to kind of the fresh feel that you're not looking at old faces in those two. So, but like I say, we want those back as quickly as possible. But, Dragusin hopefully can come back maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, and there's another one that just allows you a little bit of rotation time. And it is new for Thomas, because with Brentford, we can't deny the fact they were knocked out the cups in the first round all the time. So he has been a manager that's had pretty much 1 game a week all the time to have to handle. And that's not saying he can't handle this at all, but it is slightly different from what he's had to do. And the only slight thing you can look back on with Brentford is that when they did have 2 games a week, and you do start to have to, it's less days on the training pitch when it's 2 games a week. It's less times to come up with different game plans. How they dropped off from winning 55% of games to 24% of games. So that's something you've just got to be a little bit mindful of.
Yeah, how critical is that, Bridge, in terms of getting that balance right, like Jason said there? Because, look, you're Spurs. We all know how much cup games mean to us. We know how much we loved that Europa League run last year. Can he get that balance right with terms of the squad? We're going to come on to shortly about the fact that the objective is obviously to have a squad that can compete on all 4 fronts. Just how crucial is it in terms of that fact around the case? Has he got enough flexibility and balance there to be able to fight on all those 4 fronts, given the fact, like we say, we may get some injuries as well in there?
Well, time will tell. It depends on the injuries. But all I'll say is I don't think there's any teams, maybe Arsenal, apart from Arsenal and maybe Liverpool, who can say that they're well stocked. I think Villa are going to struggle massively when Europa League starts for them. If I was Newcastle, I'd certainly worry if I were them. So it won't be just us who will be slightly cautious. But it was lovely to see Destiny Udogie come on yesterday for Jed Spence. I thought he was lively. His crossing wasn't great, but it was good for him to come on. You got Brendan Rodgers, Brendan Johnson to come on. Rodri Bentancur didn't even come on, so he's fresh. Kolo Muani, I'm told, is not ready at all yet because he played in the Club World Cup and hasn't really done it.
So no surprise there, Bridge, if you didn't get minutes. No surprise there for you.
No issues. I mean, I get the point. He could have come on for a couple of minutes yesterday, but look, they know best, I think, at the moment. Odegaard, bit of legs. I mean, look, I liked that. That's the good thing. When walking up to the stadium yesterday, it was one of the things I did say. I was like, wow, that's a strong bench. You just don't want to get to January, and that Newcastle game was a joke, wasn't it? To be honest with you, like the team and the subs, it was. I mean, they could have had a competition, get a fan to sit on the bench, like Tim Sherwood pulled that fan out of the crowd. It was really, really bleak. But look, it's a boring answer for you, I'm afraid. But it just depends on the injuries. It really does. But there are some key, Van der Ven's the one for me. Van der Ven's the one Romero. They're so solid. But now we've got, João Paulinho. I don't know. To me, that was the most no-brainer loan signing I can remember. Honestly, I'm not saying he would play every game. I get that. But there are some games, especially in the away games, the tough away games, the so-called 50-50s, even the ones where City would be favourites. But he's going to be such an important part of this team. He really is. And what start Sar's made, and it's good for the likes of Bentancur to because he's had we forget what horrendous injury he had. He's such a good player, but people forget he's had such a stop and start Spurs career for so many different reasons. So we'll just wait and see. But European football starts this week for Spurs, and was it 7 or 8 other clubs?
Yes,
I think you're going to see a really interesting Premier League with teams in 5th, winning 6 and losing 5. It's going to be so up and down. It really is. It really is.
Yeah,
but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, just on that point, what's quite interesting that Bridgie brings up there, Jace, when you look at the league table at the moment, I'm looking at the clubs that really you would have maybe thought they're going to be Tottenham's competition to get back up, in front of the likes of Newcastle, Villa. You'd maybe argue. Villa, they're sitting 19th at the moment. I know it's only 4 games. I think they're yet to even score a goal, Aston Villa, in their 4 games they've played so far in the Premier League. Newcastle, I think they got their first win, of course, at the weekend as well. Their new striker getting off the mark. Has there been any real surprises so far from you, Jason? Do you have confidence about the team Spurs will need to get up against or back up?
I don't know if there's been surprise up there again, aren't they? I think now the league starts to settle down because the first 3 games, you've got players still coming and going. You look at Newcastle; they make all their signings. Yesterday's the first game they've had a chance to play them. Even Villa, with Harvey Elliott and Sancho and things like that. You've also got, at that stage of the season, Isak, just a point on Isak, him being on strike is actually really so unprofessional because it's cost Sweden. I think they lost both their World Cup qualifiers, didn't they, Sweden? Because they can't use Isak. And today, Liverpool almost got held to a 0-0, a game where you'd think Isak should be there to make the difference, but he's still not fit enough to be on the bench because he's not trained or anything. And what a difference in Gahey that's up and running, so that if he'd have made his Liverpool debut, he can slot straight in. Whereas Isak's behaviour over the summer has cost a lot to the teams that he's already been involved with. So I think now we'll start to settle down a bit, but it's a great chance when you look at those 4 league games, particularly if we get 10 points on top of what we've got. You can hopefully start to build, 4, 5, 6 point gap between, you're right, the Villas, the Newcastles, the Man Uniteds. They've lost again today. And just start to build something between all those teams that will be chasing that 5th spot with us.
Yeah. I always say, even though it's 4 games in, do you agree, Bridget, at this point, it's really important, even at 4 games in, that you're already not, towards the bottom and you're trying to chase up. The great thing is Spurs are near the top and they're already kind of in touching distance. So if you want to believe it, Liverpool only 3 points ahead of us. Is that really crucial at this stage of the season? Because I remember, even last season, our start wasn't the greatest, and already you feel like we're 4 points behind, due respect Arsenal or Liverpool. Does that play in your mind a little bit at this stage even still?
I don't usually look at the table this early, but my dad was looking at it earlier and saying it's nice to be up there. And look, he's right in a way. Yeah, it's interesting. Villa won't like it, and they've not scored a goal yet. I think it's important to start the league strong because I know I'm going to get some really bonkers results, not just at Spurs, but in general. And he talks about bad behaviour. I don't think Johan Vissa covered himself in glory at Brentford, but he's out for a good few weeks. So, I think Eddie Howe and Newcastle look short. So,
what have you made, Bridget, just very quickly, of the player power in terms of the window we've just had? Does that worry you in terms of future windows about that? For someone that's covered it for so many years in terms of the transfer window, what have you made of it? And should it be a concern that Gahey, who, to be fair to Gahey, did act correctly and right, didn't get his move, and the likes of Visser and Isak that did kick up a fuss, got their move? Should that be a worry for a lot of fans and clubs in the future with regards to how players may act?
Okay, he's just a great bloke in general. Whenever I've spoken to him, I just like the guy. I think it's interesting. I think we know he'll end up getting a very good move at a very big club after this, regardless. So he can have a look at it. For me, I think it makes Liverpool maybe one player short, and I'm like that's my worry in terms of our North London rivals potentially. But let's worry about that down the line. But you're right, because I've deleted all my pictures on Instagram of the club I play for. God, have a day off, seriously. It's just like having to, and it's like, but it's not news, but then you have to report it.
You have to report
like,
it, yeah.
Oh, he's taken the club bio out of his name on Instagram. I'm like, seriously, like it is
By
a
the
concern.
power for about a time Jason's done that.
But it is but it's not necessarily new either. I mean,
yeah,
I never want to be at Middlesbrough away again in the away end, seeing Berbatov not warming up.
Oh.
Like bad behaviour has gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you can write your chat GBT statements or whatever afterwards, and the clubs don't, fans don't fall for it. Fans aren't silly. Fans are not silly, so there's right ways of going about it. But I think you raised the point. You'll have a look at it down the line, and people will say, well, you're going to have to be badly behaved to get what you want.
Can I ask you, Bridget, just deadline day, you was at Tottenham on deadline day. Set the scene, deadline day. How much interaction do you have with the club on deadline day? I mean, you're stuck there. How many hours were you there? 15 hours or whatever. Do you get a chance to nip into reception and get a coffee, or you stuck in your van the whole time, or what?
No, they look after me very well. I'll pop in there for a coffee, and they got me a pizza in the evening. They're a great bunch of people there. Get on with them very, very well. And as my responsibility as Spurs correspondent, we have to engage with them and make sure. Like, I think what's key more than ever in terms of transfers, it's not about being first; it's about being completely accurate, and that's the name of the game. So, and I'll never stop, and I'll never drop from that. So, but it was. Look, if you can't enjoy deadline day, what's the point? What's the point?
Well, Jason, because the window shuts. Jason.
And your Moani, when the news of Moani comes through, are you allowed to say where that first little snip came from? Does that come from journalistic contacts, or does that come from 20 yards across the car park? I tell you what, Bridgie, there's something about to happen.
So there's times where I check in the night before what could be happening, what could not be happening. The last few weeks, I think it's very obvious. I'll talk about my last week then. So basically, Savinho was a massive target. Really, they looked at him and thought this is someone they really, really want. But ultimately, City decided not to sell. Sounded like the player was keen, which is good. Whether Spurs going again in January, we'll wait and see. Ideally, potentially a defender on the left central, but they didn't go for that in the end. So as I say, let's just hope there's no big injuries in the defence. Moani is someone the club have known about for some time. And with my job / role responsibility working for a Premier League club, you have to check with the Premier League club that they're happy with the information that I'm about to put out. Other journalists don't have that responsibility, but it's important. Well, it's imperative that I have to check.
It's interesting stuff, isn't it? I mean, we just know, Jace, with deadline day, the whole thing about the Moani signing was that he's a player that Bridgie said we know very well because the club went in for him previously, ended up with Tell. Then Tell doesn't make the Champions League squad, and you've got Moani. I mean, is that one of those things, Bridgie, that again, it's difficult optics to try and understand that point, and it just shows you really the chaotic nature of a transfer window where they've liked Moani for quite a long time because again they've gone with him previously. But does it? I mean, I suppose the key thing about it is Solanke's injury. Do you think that really accelerated the Moani deal? Do you think independently they may have done it anyway?
Well, the club, the word from the club was no, they wanted him regardless. But look, I think we can all agree that if Spurs went into this campaign, because I always feel after deadline that right, the season's really underway now. I don't know how you guys feel, but like that, right, here we go.
Everything's shut now. We can just focus on what we've got.
Here's your squad. Let's do our registrations. And I kept saying time after time to my mates, it's like, we can't go into a season with just Richarlison and Solanke, because Richarlison's injury record has not been great, let's be honest. He's had a good start, which I'm delighted with. But then, Solanke, slight ankle injury, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. There's a game Wednesday, there's a game Saturday, there's a game Tuesday, there's a game Sunday. It's going to catch up. So I was delighted to see Kyle Moani come through the door on deadline day. Absolutely delighted. Clubs get offered an options left, right, and centre on the final day. It's quite a manic window, and I found it quite refreshing. They actually closed at 7 p.m. this time and not 11.
Yeah.
I think I have. Sorry to bring up Arsenal again, but I think if they've really got to go, they've got to win something major this year to justify. Because I think they look covered completely in all areas. Liverpool defensively, I wonder, but I think every club would say they would want more. That's just the nature of it.
Of course, 100%.
But
yeah,
it is the first window under the new management.
Yeah,
and then out of the blue, bang, huge move upstairs. Like, yes, I get the directive to me and other journalists. It's business as usual, but even so, that's a huge figurehead.
Yeah,
not being part of the centre of the club for 25 years. That's massive. Let's not underplay it.
No. Well, let's come on to next. So we're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio here. We have already got nearly over 5,500 that are watching us live. As always, guys, thank you ever so much for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. It is Champions League week. We are building up to Spurs back in the Champions League. I'm joined alongside me by Jason McGovern. I'm joined by a brilliant broadcaster, presenter, journalist, Michael Bridges, back on the show. We normally try and get Bridgie twice a year whenever we can. It's good to say we've got Bridgie at a good moment. And a crazy moment, Bridget, like you said there, because the man that's been the figurehead of Tottenham for the last quarter of a century, Daniel Levy, has exited the footballing side of the business. I mean, like you said, you were quoted there from the club, business as usual. Is it business as usual? Because it does feel like a massive weight, a lot of noise around the club may start to, maybe to some degree now, condensed by the fact Daniel Levy is not going to be on the footballing side of things. And when you see, like I say, now upstairs in the hierarchy, alongside Vinod Venkatesham, he's got Viv Thomas next to him. He's got Nick Boycher next to him, alongside Johan Langer there. Do you really feel this is now a new era for Tottenham, despite the fact that we are still under ENIC, the same organisation that has been in place for the last 25 years?
Yeah, I mean, what you've said there, I echo all of that. But the emphasis is more than ever delivering success on the pitch. And I think the point they're making is that there hasn't been enough success on the pitch. It is a new era. Now they're saying they want to deliver long-term sporting success, but that's easier said than done. So, is there going to be more, is the wages structure going to change, or is there more money going to be pumped in? We're going to have to wait and see. There's going to be more changes, I'm sure, without a doubt, but it's just going to be different in general. I was thinking about it, it looked even different with Daniel Levy not in that chairman's seat at a match. That was different for me yesterday. So it is very much a wait and see. But I think what you've noticed already is it just shows what a big club this is, because when it was announced, wow, it was all over the main news, all the sports news, the back pages, dominated Sky Sports News throughout the day the next day. Please don't anyone ever tell me this is not a big club. Don't give me the rubbish about this club have won the league in 1903. Stop. This is a huge football club. And the eyes are on it. There are some big people who would love to have an investment in there. Some big hitters have visited the stadium the last couple of years. Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see what will happen over the next few months. Let's not forget, we haven't had, it's still called the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah. Spurs are worth a lot of money, but they're going to be worth even more. That's what gets it for me. So It's a new era. Yes, it's business as usual to an extent. what I'd say is, I've just heard nothing but positive things about Vinay. And a lot of that is from Arsenal people.
Right.
You got a good one there. You got a good one there. Oh, we're gutted he's gone to you, So, and I thought he spoke awfully well on the club's in-house channel the other day.
Yep.
And I would suggest that they do more of that. Not weekly. Don't have to be weekly. Maybe, every 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, just checking in, and I keep hearing he's a great link between supporters and club. And maybe we didn't have that as much before. So let's see.
Yeah. It's interesting because, again, I mean, Jace, I know I've come over you with the subject already about the change. And I know there's a lot of people out there that still remain sceptical because it is Enoch that's still in control of the club, despite the fact that, Nick Boycha is showing his face, and now Viv Lewis also is showing their face as well. I suppose, as discussed in the last show, it's going to come down to really what they can control during this period. I might ask Bridgie again where we are in terms of contract negotiations and how critical that may be in these next few months with the window being closed. But do you think, Jace, by the fact that their presence is at the game, at least, in terms of the likes of Viv Lewis and Nick Boycha, does that just give a positive sign about that? Because to be fair, whatever you say about Daniel Levy was at nearly every single game Tottenham Hotspur played.
Well, definitely, I think you've got a front up. That's for sure. After everything that went on over the last 2 weeks, it wouldn't have been great optics if there was 2 empty seats there, would there? And just Johan Lange and Vinay. Just on that, I mean, you get the feeling when you see that, with all the things that we might think of as Daniel Levy, it felt a little bit sad not seeing him there in a strange way. And I hope he doesn't feel that, he can't go to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for 6 months or something like that. I mean, when all that was going on with Everton, do you remember, and Bill Kenwright and all that had to stay away, you don't want to see that happen at the football club, because we can have a go at Daniel Levy for maybe not putting Tottenham where he wants us, but I mean, he's not smashed the club to pieces in the way that Mike Ashley was doing and things like that. So I do hope he can go back soon enough. He's just got to remember that he can't sit on the edge of the front row anymore, and he'll need to sit somewhere else. But it was important for them to be there. But it's a change of an era, but we have to make sure that it's a change in policy. That's the thing, because it's no good just changing faces and there being no outcome to those changes.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair. I mean, the key is going to be, like I said, Bridgie, maybe what they can do in this window. Obviously, at the moment, transfer window is being closed. And I suppose a couple of things at the moment you might feel might be on the agenda is obviously contractual situations. We know that in the last few weeks, Thomas Frank's given a lot of praise to Rodrigo Bentancur. We know he's entering his last 18 months. And Mickey van der Ven, despite the fact I think Mickey's got a good couple of years left to run in his contract, I think he's probably one of the lower paid members of the squad when you compare it to, the likes of Romero, what he's on, and now Xavi Simons. Would you say in terms of contract negotiations, that could be a key area to kind of win fans over by trying to tie down the likes of Bentancur and the likes of Mickey van der Ven to fresh new terms? Would you say those are two critical points or two critical players that could show that ambition on?
Yeah, I think so. But do you remember the famous Pochettino pictures with players getting new contracts all the time? I think that's one area where the club, and you've got to include Daniel in that because he signs it off, that Spurs are very good at tying people down to contracts. You never want a Sol Campbell situation ever again, ever. But you talk about Mark Gay, yeah. You talk about Mark Gay. You talk about, we're dealing with transfers the whole summer. This player's got 18 months left. This player's got 12 months left. So it's value. So it's incredibly important that Spurs do. Well, Van der Ven deserves it anyway, and it'll be interesting to see if he. So I can't remember who asked the question on Friday. It might have been Ali Gold on the leadership group, and Thomas was quite funny. He went like, and then he just like, he's forgotten to. That's one thing he's still got on his to-do list. So it'd be interesting to see who would be part of his new leadership group.
Are you surprised, Bridgie, that's not been done? We're now middle of September. So I mean, he must know already, mustn't he? He must know who is in his group.
Yeah.
Must know that.
Yeah, for sure. But do you know what? I like those. Like, you've got Vicario as so vocal he was yesterday. Romero, I've never seen him. You know, that was such a no-brainer appointment, Romero. You know, and
captain. Yeah,
we talk about the transfer window. Romero signing a new long-term deal was one of the best bits of business Spurs have done because he's such an elite defender. You know, I know, and I love seeing all the great pictures of Mickey, that goal-saving clearance in the Europa League final. But Romero, let me tell you, the way he got into Maguire's head in that final played such pivotal part. And I loved Jan Vertonghen and Toby in that era, but there's just something about Romero where you want him in your team in key games. And that was the one example for me.
He's a winner, isn't he? Bridges a winner. Where, you know, in terms of on the international stage, he wins. And I agree with you. That Europa League final, the way he led us into the half to do the huddle in front of United. Obviously, his players as well. There's something about him. I mean, it does feel, Jace, on that point, it's going to be so key, isn't it, Jace, to make sure Romero and Van der Ven are fitness. Like you said earlier, those two players could be so pivotal to really how Spurs do cope on all four fronts this season if we can keep them both fit, Jace.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, even in amongst all the chaos and the 22 losses and things, you only had to look at the stat when those two played together, particularly with Vicario behind them, that whether people like it or not, we won, 17 out of 22 games when that was the pairing. So losing one of them is a huge loss. Losing both of them was massive. And then to lose them both for like 4 months of the season, at the same time you've lost your goalkeeper for 4 or 5 months of the season. I mean, it's going to hit anyone if you do that. It will hit Thomas Frank if you do that. It would hit Slot. It would hit Arteta if he lost Raya, Saliba and Gabriel for 5 months of the season. So it is important. But I mean, just on Bentancur's contracts, and Bridges right, we actually have done pretty well with contracts in terms of not letting them go. But we've just seen how well Chelsea sell all summer. And we're about to lose Bissouma for what? 10 million if he goes in January, 5 million.
Yeah.
And we can't afford to let Bentancur also go for 5 million or for free in the summer. So there's two big midfield players. Whether we think Bissouma now is no longer really part of the squad, there's still a player with more value than, say, Brian Hill has ever been. Yep. So, you know, it would be a sad to see both of them move on for little or no money when it's a time when we have to get better at selling players as well.
Yeah. I mean, on that point, Bridgie, are you quite surprised how difficult we found it to move Bissouma on this window? There's an admittance from Frank, really, that he thinks now he's likely to stay. And I think we're coming towards the end of the closing of those international windows now. So, surprised for you, Bissouma hasn't got a move? Do you think he can be reintegrated back in without any kind of issues? What do you think on that?
Well, I'm not privy to Bissouma's conduct when he speaks to clubs or his management team. All I do know is that the club are very keen to move him on, but he needs to be integrated back into the team now, into the squad. He's not obviously part of the Champions League squad, but he could be a help for the league and the domestic cups. Didn't materialise with Galatasaray the other week, which I think was a bit of a shame for the club. But you know, it's not a good look. Missing, you know, being late and Thomas not putting him in the squad for PSG. It's not the first time, so we'll wait and see. But I'm not that hopeful that he's going to have much of an impact under Thomas Frank. It takes a lot for Thomas Frank to lose that smile, and he lost it when we mentioned him a few weeks ago.
It's going to be intriguing because again, it's one of those players that it felt, Jace, at the time when Thomas called Bissouma out publicly on the timekeeping, that he's also making a point, isn't he? There, the fact that, you know, he wants a certain level to be set. And I suppose the worry is that bringing Bissouma back in and trying to integrate him, if you have more problems like that, what kind of message does that sound to the group? And where are you on that, Jace, for you? Is that going to be a massive problem? Do you see it this season?
Well, whether he had to tell, I think Thomas Frank had the choice. He didn't necessarily have to tell us, as long as it's clear to Bissouma and the group of players that he's not coming to Udine with us because he's been late. So he didn't have to tell us. And maybe in a strange way, it wasn't wise to tell us when we were looking to offload him, because any interested party instantly thinks, blimey, if this is what he's like under a new manager, what's the point of going in for him? So I still feel that would have probably been better that week to have said, no, he's got a few issues at home and just leave it leave it at that, and then maybe expand on it at a later stage. But Thomas Frank knows how to manage Bissouma. I think we all know, there's been so many problems with Bissouma in the 4 years. Going home doing balloons last year at the end of the first game, and he was late several times under Ange in his first couple of weeks, wasn't he? I think he was late under Ange in his very first day.
Yeah.
So, it's sad. It's just it's sad that we've not got the best of Biss. Be it, and I mean, look, Conte obviously wasn't impressed with him from day one, was he?
No.
So it's a shame because there is a player in Biss, but he's just never going to fulfil the talent that he obviously has got. And the worry for me, I remember once when he got dropped from Marley's squad, and was it Marley or it is Marley, isn't it?
It is Marley. I mean, saying to you, that's a low.
I remember saying to you, there's no way a top player at a so-called top 6 Premier League club should be getting dropped from the Marley squad. And if Marley have got a problem with him, then that tells you everything as well. And that's no criticism or disrespect to Marley.
No. But like I say, in terms of them as a player, he's he's a probably pivotal player for them. So look, Bissouma, they will have to integrate him back in. I want to ask you about Matisse Tel, Bridgie. It's been a difficult last couple of weeks for Tel. He said he was really hurt by his absence from this first phase of the Champions League games, and Frank has said that he's supporting him. The one thing about Tel, which you can't knock, is his mentality. He seems a very strong-willed kid. Again, we saw that really from last season, the way he, helped Ange and supported Ange, last season in difficult times when it comes to confronting fans. Do you still have a lot of hope for Tel's future at Tottenham here, Bridgie? Because it just feels that there may be something there as a player, but we just haven't quite seen it yet. And I think we're still splitting really as to know what his best position is in a Tottenham shirt. Are you any further known at this stage, Bridgie, like us Spurs fans? Just, again, very, at the moment, having to wait and see what comes next for Matisse Tel.
It might need a wonder go out of nowhere, something like that. I haven't seen much at all, if I'm honest. It's only fair and right to give people a fresh start under a new head coach, a very different head coach. We've already seen the benefits of Pape Sarr and Lucas Bergvall, I think, under Thomas Frank. We've seen how different our defence looks. We look stronger at the back. I liked seeing the goals Tel scored for France in the under-21s. People say, well, it's a lower level. But even so, you're still knocking them in for your country. I loved what he said about his Champions League mission. I think he's got and he seems like a very, very nice lad. He just needs to get a consistent run of matches. He must start against Doncaster. He must. And hopefully we'll get a goal or two in that match. A few cameos here and there. We'll wait and see. But I certainly wouldn't write off a player at such a young age. And we always forget, these kids, imagine us going for a new job in, 21 into a new country, new this, new that. It's, got to give the lad time. Got to give the lad time. Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Even on the recruitment piece now, what it felt like, Bridgie, especially that last week of the window, and that you were involved in it, bless you, on deadline day. It felt like there was a lot of cooks in there. You had the likes of, obviously, Paratici, Johan Langer doing the deals. I mean, by the fact, I'm just intrigued from your perspective. I know Ali Gold seems to think, that in his most recent video, that he seems to think that Paratici's return is still very much on at the moment. I just wonder, in your mind, with Daniel Levy's exit and the fact that it did feel that Paratici was very much close to Daniel as being a man that he really did almost try and engineer back to the club, on several occasions. Is that still a decision you think is up in the air in terms of Paratici coming back, or do you still think that's not going to change? There were suggestions that he's going to resume a full-time role with Spurs September, October time. What's your understanding on that?
Well, I mean, that's probably one for a question potentially next week, because
okay,
it was very close. He was very close to Daniel.
Yep.
When he did, he never really. I'll probably get in trouble, but he never really properly left. If really, I mean, it's not as if the club lost his phone number.
No, he's been a consultant. He's partly on a consultant basis. Yep.
Yeah. But let's wait and see, because they do say it's business as usual. But again, I go back to it. Daniel played a big part in transfer negotiations. Even when they had different directors of footballs, there were times where he would get involved at last minute.
He told us on your Sky's the overlap. He told us that as soon as really got to negotiation stage, he was front and centre there. So so it is business as usual. I get it, but that's going to be a different kind of business, isn't it? So we'll have to wait and see. So I'm,
maybe there's going to be a few more announcements over the next few months. Wait and see. He seems very popular with the supporters, doesn't he? He's got a bit about him, hasn't he, Paratici?
Fabio.
A friend of mine yesterday works with the club said to me that it was against Bodo Glimt. He said, and Fabio went up to him and went, what's wrong? And he said, I'm just nervous. Chill out. We're going to win 3-1. And then we did. So yeah, I think he's a bit, yeah. So
you won't forget that moment when I think it was him and Steve Hitchin that were on the bench. I'm trying to remember what game that was. I think it was Chelsea away. Was it Stamford Bridge? Was it under Nuno? It was under
my season ticket. It's my season ticket seat. Them two were jumping up against Man City, and I bloke next to you went, sit down. I went, I can't tell them to sit down, mate. They're directors.
I'm just intrigued to know, ask you this, Bridget. You know, I've been fascinated a lot by Eddie Howe this summer and the way he handled the Isak thing. I know, again, you've interviewed Eddie. I just think he's such a class act, the way he's handled that whole situation. And he was asked, I think, last Friday about the fact that there's no currently a director of football at Newcastle, and whether that suits him being so involved in the deals. In your experience now, as managers, Eddie seems to suggest that he would rather give it off to somebody that can focus on that. Do you agree that that needs to be done by somebody independently? You know, Frank manages the team, he's very much the coach, but can you have more than one person being there? And what I mean by that is, does it have a detrimental effect having Johan Langer and a Paratici in there? Can they work collaboratively together?
Well, here's a perfect example. We saw Nuno Espirito Santo the other week. Okay, I'll get in trouble for saying this, but it looked like some kind of sabotage because he didn't put in Amari Hutchinson in the Europa League squad. It's like, sack me now, sack me. Like, because someone said to me the other week, Glasner was, will Glasner resign? Who resigns in football? What managers resign anymore? Come on, let's get real. And yes, Glasner's probably upset. He would have been spectacularly angry about Gay. He might have gone off on a press conference. He's not going to resign. Right. So, So I mean, look, it's about relationships, isn't it? I think with Eddie Howe, I don't think he had one. Well, I know he didn't. He didn't have one with Paul Mitchell.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't last word on Newcastle, but I think Newcastle are missing Darren Eales, who sadly is away with cancer, who was very highly regarded here as well. So that's another head who's not at the club at the moment. But I'm sure Eddie Howe, who I've got an immense amount of time for, I know he was very, very disappointed with the whole Isak saga, and I thought he handled it well.
Yeah, I mean, we know as fans, I mean, we've been there ourselves, Jace, with players that have maybe wanted away in previous summers and how difficult that can disrupt you. And again, this is why, I'll never take delight in seeing other clubs going through that. I mean, because again, we've been there ourselves, so we know how difficult it can be. Is that one of the biggest things, Jace, of this summer? That the fact of the matter is that because we did get that Romero situation sorted out at quite a decent time, we've really been in control of our own destiny when it comes to players, and even the Sonny one was dealt with such class, I have to say.
Perfect summer in that respect. We didn't lose anyone that we wanted to keep. There was no noise about anyone we really wanted to keep. I know there was rumours about Romero, but I think he only really got linked, didn't he, to Atletico. Yeah. I think that was the only club. And if you actually looked at Atletico in the summer, I think they bought one or two centre-halves really early in it. So even when there was noise about Romero, I thought, but they've just signed two centre-halves anyway. I think a couple of them were decent money centre-halves as well. So, I don't know if we ever really got around the table with anyone or received a serious offer. But yeah, you don't want all those distractions. The one I feel sorry for is the manager, because, and this is where I would go mad at Bridges' equivalents, if you like. The constant,
not Bridges' equivalents.
The constant questions that 20 managers are going to say, what answer they're going to give you. They're just not going to give you the answers, and yet they ask the question time and time again. And I just think, what a waste of a press conference. And poor Eddie Howe gets asked by the presser on his pre-match, gets asked by the flash interview before kick-off. As soon as the game ends, it's the same question. It's so draining for them that, it's... Don't turn up with Gary Cottrell either.
Bridget, let me bring you back in just quickly. I want to ask you about Xavi Simons making his Spurs debut. It looks a really exciting prospect. I don't know if anyone's actually seen this yet because it takes you a day or so to see it on the playback, but really gave it to the West Ham fans after that corner that he took.
I've just seen that.
Yeah,
I've just seen that.
Yeah, just
But-
really...
Oh,
That's what makes you indebted to this club very quickly. He's only played 190 minutes and suddenly already people are loving Xavi Simons for that reaction, Bridgie.
you know what? I left the London Stadium yesterday. Sorry, I'll get onto Xavi Simons in a minute. It's funny.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Daniel Levy and the board and everything, but
yeah,
West Ham. We've all got friends with West Ham, and you know, the place was empty at 2-0. And I look at that's a football club with, you know, let's be honest, they're passionate supporters, and you know, and everything. You know, we know how much they despise us. I get it, but
yeah.
They're, you know, I've got time for them. I mean, I'm going to get hounded for saying this.
Some
but
of them.
Yeah. But yesterday, I just looked around and the heart is just not there. It's
what they've done to the club.
It was like it's ripped, and even they couldn't be bothered to even boo Kudus near the end. You know, it's like, oh, do you know what? What's the point? You know, so you know, you talk about, you know, no Daniel Levy, that you had to see David Sullivan there and Karen Brady, and you know that could start getting really toxic over the next few weeks. But let's go back to us, and I don't think I think he's a 10. I'd like to see him as a 10. But I thought a very positive first match in what was a difficult first match. So that's it's a positive start. But I'd like to see him a bit more central. I think he's more of a 10.
Yeah, listen, I think again for a debut, contributing an assist, you know, you can ask more than that. Just have to ask you, Bridge, as well about Sarr and Bergvall. Sarr and Bergvall. I mean, their potential reach, these two. Bergvall, that, you know, again, I think what we saw last season, he won Young Player of the Year for Spurs. You know, again, incredibly high ceiling. I've tipped Sarr to be, for me, I think the dark horse about what he could be this season. I just think you've seen it with Frank, his improvement of players. I mean, are we looking at two players here in Bergvall and Sarr that could really be two shining lights for Spurs this season, Bridgie?
Absolutely. I think we have to. Again, you know, what is Thomas Frank going to do to these players? How much is he going to improve these players? That's why I'm excited to see. But I have to remind people that Pape Sarr was wanted by every major club in the world. Trust me on that. Before
Tottenham.
Yeah. Spurs beat mega clubs to his signature. Mega clubs. Oh God, there's another blooming Muscle Martin in the comment section. Ricky, can you ban this? Anyway, sorry.
I think if I do that, I'm banning off the audience. There's about 7,000 here.
I had a tweet from a Rangers fan. Get your pal or your brother and send him back down to London. I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, yeah, I'm really
I know he's not around with the in-house Rangers media team, all right? We got him fresh before the show.
I know. But also Bergvall, and who everyone's gonna say, oh, who doesn't like being on the bench? But he hates being on the bench. He wants to start every game. Start every game, every minute. You know, there's a leader in that boy. There's a leader in that boy. But people are so quick to criticize players. He's not going to make it. He's not ready. He's not going to make it. Well, them two yesterday, outstanding, absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, agreed. Jason, just your quick thoughts on those two, because two players, you know, incredibly young age, have got such a high ceiling. I know what you're going to say to me. Just don't need to put the pressure on them. Let them play and just see them progress, right?
Yeah, let them keep going. I thought Bergvall was outstanding yesterday. There was I think it was just towards the end of the first half where just around the centre circle, he won a ball, dropped a shoulder. So you saw the combative side of him, and then you saw the composure to pick his pass. Excellent. And the goal he scored, it was Toby to Delhi, wasn't it? The goal.
Oh, it was just unbelievable.
Totally reminded me of Toby and Delhi. Yeah. But a brilliant run. And then, but it wasn't an easy header to execute, because, you know, he's not running onto it. It's still having to fetch it from slightly behind him. But an absolutely outstanding goal, outstanding performance. And it takes a lot of confidence from being player of the season and the young player of the season of that last year. Yeah. I think, you know, I think Sweden are starting to realise just you almost feel like he's a senior player and he's still a young kid. So no, big hopes for him this season for sure.
Yeah, massive player for Spurs, and I think you can just see as well. He's growing, isn't he? Kind of game after game in a Spurs shirt, and it feels there with maybe the influence of a Scandinavian coach in Frank. Could that be a real difference for him? So I think really, really exciting. Look, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of this show for our listeners on audio. I am joined by Jason McGovern, and I am joined, just to confirm, by Michael Bridge from Sky Sports, not Russell Martin. So lay off, all right, Rangers media press, lay off. We're joined by broadcaster, presenter, journalist, Michael Bridge, one of our own, loved, of course, by the Spurs fans. And like I say, we normally see him outside deadline day of January and the summer when it closes, but we always try and grab him on if we can twice a season. Guys, keep liking, keep subscribing to the show. We did say it's Champions League week. We're building up to Spurs being back in the Champions League. Villareal are on the horizon. It's good times when Bridgie's smiling on here, because there's been a lot of times Bridgie's been on here and you haven't always been smiling, Bridgie. So is it good vibes at the moment?
Yeah, I think my sister's in the comments section, so I'm just smiling. She's boning. Yeah. And Paddy, friend of mine, Paddy, has asked about Mikey Moore.
Go touch by Mikey Moore. Touch by Mikey Moore, because again, big. It was a big loan move for Mikey to go to Rangers. I mean, is it because of the fact of what's? Yeah,
he chose them.
Right.
Yeah, he chose them. He started yesterday. Looking at hearing the Rangers comments, he's not ready. It's just like up there. Second is last. It's.
And they're not even second. They're not even second. I mean, that's the problem.
I'm in 10th. So I am slightly concerned.
Michael Bridges.
We've talked about early days, but
yeah,
that is a concern for me. The thing is as well, Jason and I were saying it off air, weren't we? Like, when things are going well, if things were going well up there, it would be a great move. Two big clubs up there, but when it doesn't go so well, the crowd are really onto you. So that's going to be difficult for him. But we'll wait and see if the manager lasts. And if he doesn't last, then does the new manager come in and say we're not so sure about him?
Yeah, I know it's a last one on Spurs and not a last one on Sheffield United, but I said to Jason on, what was it? Oh. I said to Jason on Thursday, was it Friday, the game of the Sheffield United game? Forgive me. I said, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Chris Wilder goes back there. I mean, what a club that is. I mean, they've sacked him. How many times he's going back there, Bridgie? I mean, what's going on with football these days?
I mean, why sack a bloke that got you over 90 points last season? Really good that. And I mean, if Ruben Sellers was called Ray Souls, would they have gone for him? It's just like, he's done all right, Ruben Sellers, at other clubs, but it's not as if like he's, he's going to really. So, Wilder should be going in there like that, come on in, But, yeah, that's football.
Yeah.
They might need Wilder down at the council tip.
That's an interesting, Bridgie. Just a hunch, Nuno. Would he get back in quite fast, do you think, Nuno?
Yeah. He's done a brilliant job at Forest.
Yeah.
Brilliant job. Absolutely.
Was you surprised? I have to ask you about Marinakis and the optics of course, the Gibbs White move falling through. I think we all felt to some degree. I do blame the club for a lot of things, but that's one thing I think I couldn't blame the club for, was the knack of how that move fell through for Gibbs White. There was something very strange behind the scenes there.
Yeah.
What have you made about that, Ange, going in there, obviously, and the fact that Nuno going out? Surprised you at all?
Well, no, not really, because the writing was on the. It was over the minute he criticised Marinakis a few weeks ago in a press conference. Yeah. And he doesn't get on with Edu. They use different agents, and they're not the ones Nuno got on with. So the relationship was dead. And then he criticised the transfers. 3 days later, they spent 130 million on new players. A couple of them he's not registered for the Champions League squad. That's sabotage, So, but it wasn't.
How was he allowed to pick? How was he even allowed to pick that squad, Bridgie? That's what I find crazy.
No, I know, but I think he'll be okay, Nuno. I think his reputation's enhanced for that tenure. I mean, I've even seen a few West Ham fans mention him. If Potter was about to depart, but Ange being there, I mean, blimey. See, talk about season 3. Let's get that. Let's get a camera in there now. I mean, come on, like,
him and Marinakis meetings would be so much fun, wouldn't they?
Oh, Wow.
I just can't imagine
Look,
And would stand for the fact that Marinakis coming on the pitch and confronting him. Could you imagine that?
no, 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 I know. No. Well,
Yeah.
look, I wish Andrew all the best because I liked him. I really like him personally. And whatever people think of him as a manager in terms of leagues and whatever, I don't care. He won a trophy for this football club, and that stops the Warra Trophy nonsense.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Forget who I work for. I'm going to say this as a fan. I didn't really care about the Champions League qualification when we won the Europa League. It was to win something.
Agreed.
It was to win something.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. That's why the game was so much bigger for Spurs fans. I mean, it's all respect to United fans, Bridges, that game meant so much more to us. Actually, if you said to the fans, it was just about the trophy, we would have taken it, wouldn't we, without the Champions League. That's how much the game meant to us and to win that trophy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I wish him all the best, but I know there's obviously some disdain with Spurs fans and Forest now. So it's like, I don't want to see them do well, after. But look, it might have come out as a positive because Xavi Simons is a very, very, very good signing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm now seeing a lot of Forest fans suggesting that Gibbs White needs to be dropped. So doesn't football move so fast, right? It's crazy, really, just how much football moves so fast.
Yeah, and also how will he work under Postecoglou? I mean, Thomas was very keen to bring in Gibbs White for the way he plays, and he had a very specific idea for him. It didn't work out. Let's, don't want to bore his listeners on. We all know what's happened. I'm sure there'll be more info on it one day. Spurs reiterate that no issues from their side. So, we'll wait and see. But it is going to be. But now I feel it's all settled down. Now I think it is going to be some season. Wow. There's so many twists and turns.
It is indeed. Look, let's close on that. Potentially, what might be twists and turns with, of course, Spurs back in the Champions League. Villareal, we saw them in the summer give our rivals, a interesting friendly there. It wasn't an easy game for them. But at Spurs, they've got a decent record when it comes to actually their European competition overall at home. Spurs, they've avoided defeat in each of their last 20 UEFA competition games played at home. Well, they've only failed to score in one of their last 16 continental matches. There was an inconsequential 1-0 loss to AZ Alkmaar in last year's Europa League last 16 first leg. But, this is, again, an interesting tie against Villareal. I mean, the first one of 8 in this phase campaign. Jace, how do you see it? Because, again, this is a game where you'd like to think Spurs should have enough. But, I would not want to underestimate Villareal at their peril. How do you see this game and the fact it's the first one of the 8 that we're going to be facing, Jason? We'll get you to unmute if you can from your side.
Well, I think with any Spanish side, you know they're going to be technically really good. Tactically they'll be good. But they just got beat 2-0 by Atletico at the weekend.
Yeah,
man. And of course, there's a few London connections in there, isn't there? Because
just a few. There's
Nicolas Pepe that was 70 odd million at Arsenal and was a complete flop.
Yeah,
I think there's a certain player that's been charged with 1 or 2 offences there that they signed from Woolwich as well. Manor Solomon. What's the betting that his knee problems, miraculously cures and he has a worldie against us? Juan Foyth is in there. I think they also signed Vega, didn't they, from Chelsea? Another one of the 25 millions that Chelsea sold. So there's certainly some familiar. I think Danjuma has left there. Of course, the old Spurs boy. So there's one old face that at least can't hurt us. But they've been a steady European side, haven't they? You probably think of them more as a strong Europa side than a strong Champions League side. But you're right. They got a result at the Emirates pre-season, which you can't judge it, but it does show you what they're capable of doing. So I'm expecting a tight game, but I do expect Tottenham to get across the line.
Yeah, I mean they had penalty shootout success, didn't they, over Man United in the 2021 final that earned them their first ever major honour. If we leave out the pair of the Intertoto Cup triumphs they did have, I think they're thanks to Spain's higher UEFA coefficient ranking. Their Villareal raced 5th place in the Liga last season. It was enough to earn them back a ticket to the Champions League. And like Jason kind of said, they lost their last game, but they did start the season with back-to-back wins over Real Oviedo and Girona. at the start of the season, but they have only just taken 1 point from their most recent 6 on offer, drawing with Celta Vigo before that 2-0 loss to Atletico Madrid on the Saturday. They've never beaten an English team in the Champions League. I know Costa is saying, Ricky, shut up. Ricky, shut up. They've lost 8 and they've drawn 6 of their previous 14 such meetings, although Spurs have only ever won 2 of their previous 14 UEFA club matches versus Spanish sides. Bridgie, how do you see this one playing out? Because it won't be easy, but at the same time, Spurs at home in the Champions League. Thomas Frank's first ever Champions League game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think they're doing a tifo for that, aren't they, with THFC flags? So there will be a good atmosphere in there. How do you see this one playing out, Bridgie?
Yeah, a friend of mine who works at the club said, everyone get in there, make sure you're in your seats way before, because it's going to be an incredible pre-match atmosphere. They've got a lot of plans, so that sounds good. Let's really sort of get behind the team. It's the first time we're going to have a bit of a quick turnaround from such a good win Saturday. Might have helped that, we sort of eased off really a little bit in the sort of 75th to 90 minutes. I think we could have got maybe a 4th or a 5th, but we didn't win, but we still got away with a great win. It'd be brilliant to kick off the campaign with a win. Let's be honest, it's a decent draw. It's a favourable draw. People will talk about, I want to go to this trip, I want to go there. But look at it in terms of competition-wise, they'll be looking at that thinking, you know what, for a team that's, finished, well, not finished 17th, but got through it through winning a cup, they can be happy with that. And with the seeding. So, it's important to get off to a good start and possibly be in a really strong position before those 2 January matches. Yeah. Because, again, it's going to be relentless in terms of the fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, also, just I know people are also alarming, so it will be obviously the first home match of the post-Levy era, which, again, will be interesting. I mean, from what we're hearing, there's going to be, we're understanding there's going to be an increased presence from Nick Boycha and Viv Lewis at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium alongside Johan Lang and Vinay Venkatesham. So I expect to see their faces more and more in these coming weeks, maybe making a statement about the fact they will be showing their faces. Jace, you want to come in on that point?
Yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully they take a look around the stadium and look that for the opening Champions League fixture, we've got tickets on general sale at 6 tickets per person. So there should be some alarm bells at the price point for those tickets, because first game in the Champions League early in the season, you should not be on general sale at 6 per person. That's for sure.
You feel there could have been maybe a deal done there with regards to a bulk of them like they've done in the past. I think for the initial stage of the Champions League, look, maybe it's difficult because again it's phase 8, but I agree. They've got to look at that ticketing situation because look, these are the games where all the world is watching you, right? And you want your stadium to be a sellout, and especially with the work THFC flags are doing, you want the ground to be full. You want everyone to enjoy it. So look, fingers crossed before kickoff, we're going to get that in there. And look, I think the club, they're going to have to look at that, definitely revisiting the ticketing price point. Bridget, just to ask you very quickly, Dominic Solanke, you said it earlier. We thought it was 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Is it a worry, the fact, Dom came here without pretty much a clear injury record, really, from Bournemouth. He never really got injured. And to be fair to him here, been a few now occasions where he's been out for quite a lengthy period. Should that be a worry in terms of just how much football he's missing for us when really he's been signed to be the club's genuine number 9?
Yeah, there is a concern. And look, it's one of those, isn't it? Like, as Thomas said on Friday, should be back soon, and then all of a sudden a statement drops that it's a long-term one. So let's hope it's not, because Spurs cannot afford to lose any forward options. I think he had a pretty decent first season. This club's never going to replace Harry Kane like for like. So there was a lot of expectation on the guy's shoulders. And I thought he did all right first season. Yeah. And I know Thomas was very, very excited to work with him. And it's a shame for him because it's been but all these players with a sniff of England, this is a World Cup year. He will be desperate to get back. Desperate. So we'll just have to wait and see. Press conference tomorrow, which will be with a player as well. So we'll wait to hear from Thomas on that. Although he's another manager who keeps his cards close to his chest on injuries, like most do now. Yeah. But we'll wait and see and keep our fingers crossed.
Okay. 2 quick fire questions and gut feelings on this, Bridgie. Harry Kane, of course, left the football club. There's been a few murmurs recently. Could Harry come back home? Gut feeling, Bridgie, yes or no? Could you see Harry back in a Spurs shirt?
I don't think so at the moment. I don't see it. I think maybe with the regime change, I understand that people would say that's potentially more likely. I sway more of in that I don't think so to the possibly at the moment.
I think Jace, you said the same at the time. I know you also felt the same on that. And just finally, nice, easy one to close on, Bridgie. Kind of maybe your own personal feelings. What would you say is a decent barometer of what would be a successful season for Frank? What would you say would be a decent campaign for what's in store now? Got 4 competitions, got to fight on all 4 fronts. What does that look like?
I'm desperate for this club to win the FA Cup again. As much as I love the Europa League, it's the FA Cup was so special. So I'd love to win a domestic competition, and I think fifth. Okay. I don't see after the start I've seen some clubs not recruiting very well this summer. I don't think we're miles off sort of like the 5th area, 5th, 6th area. I can again go back to it. Comes back to keeping the key players fit.
100%.
And if they do, which is a big if, I think we can have a very positive season, because I think that I'm really like what I've seen from Thomas Frank so far. I really have.
Bridgie, you've been a star. We love you very much. We know we only catch you normally twice a season. We could do so much more with you. We could. For those that don't know where to find you, I don't know where they've been for the last 17 years, but where can they find if they don't know where to find you?
Well, using the coach and horses or the bricklayers, are they? But no.
They'll find him at the darts.
Definitely find him in there.
You're still going to be doing darts, Bridgie.
Good question, Jace. Good question. We'll wait and see. I hope so. Yeah. So I'll be there at Christmas. And you can catch me
the amount of laughter that's just kicked off in the comments. You can catch me on.
You can catch me on.
Catch you behind the bar, or in the bar, or on the bar,
or on the mic. Twitter, or X as we call it these days. Michael Bridge, not Bridges, not the ex-Leeds and Sunderland player. So yeah, and obviously when I'm at games like you do, please come and chat to me. It's always a pleasure, meeting so many of you. You're a great bunch. Love you all.
Bless you, mate. We love you too. Mate, you've been a star. Spurs back in the Champions League. Oh, Jace, excited? Champions League football?
Yeah, looking forward. It's always special to be in the Champions League. I think, it was the knock-on effect of Europa, and it wasn't important, but it is important for the club to be seen at the top tier. You want to be associated with those clubs, particularly in that new format. So, looking forward to it. And hopefully the weather's a bit better than it is today, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed, especially if it's half full. No, it won't be half full. It will be full. Eventually it will be. Spurs back in the Champions League. Like I say, we'll be bringing you all the latest fallout from there, as hopefully we get off to a cracking start. I've got to say, Bridgie, a load of love for you in the comments. And by the fact you've told me that you are not Russell Martin, it means there's been a lot more comments about you being Russell Martin. So it's not just out of a job just yet. But we wish you, mate, the very best for the season. We look forward to catch up with you January time, mate. You've been a star. Thank you so much, Bridgie.
Thanks, guys. Really good to see you. Take care.
Bless you, mate. You've been a star. Look, from myself, from Bridgie, from Jace, from me, we have been the last word on Spurs. It's Champions League time from us all. Keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.